Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to this evening's council meeting. It's our last regularly scheduled council meeting for 2024. I'll officially welcome our council members, staff, the media in the gallery, and those joining us virtually this evening. We will call this meeting to order and to begin this meeting by acknowledging that we are gathering on the land that has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples since time immemorial. We would like to recognize that we are in the Robinson Superior Treaty Territory, and the land on which we are gathered today is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe. Specifically, we acknowledge the neighboring community of Mishkot First Nation, for whom we have great respect. We also recognize the contributions of all Indigenous peoples, including the Métis, in shaping and strengthening the community and province of Ontario. Thank you, and miigwech. Item number 2, disclosure of pecuniary interest. Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to item number 3, approval of the agenda. May I have somebody make a motion to approve? Councillor Hoffman, Councillor Pato seconding. There are no delegations or presentations this evening, so we will move on to item number 5, adoption of minutes. 5.1, Committee of the Whole, Tuesday, November 19th. May I have somebody make a motion to approve? Councillor Cannon, seconded by Councillor Hoffman. All in favor? Carried. Item number 7, business arising out of previous meeting. 7.1, AP memo, draft municipal alcohol policy review. Mr. Patterson, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So for tonight, we have met with Councillor Cannon, who reviewed some of the things that she was interested in seeing in our new municipal alcohol policy. We have developed a draft through some recommendations from the AGCO on other communities who have recently done their municipal alcohol policies. So for tonight, we're just looking for council to have the draft in front of them. I'm available for any questions now, but also throughout essentially now until January. So if folks would like to read it and get back to me with their feedback. It is in a draft stage right now, so I am looking for input. I've provided this draft as well to some of our staff, as well as to the AGCO to review. And then we're looking to come back to council in January with a more finalized version, as well as a recommendation to adopt. So essentially what we've done is we've redone a whole bunch of it, which had to do with special occasion permits, because that process has changed significantly over the last couple years. We've also essentially come up with defining events and looking at events on a risk basis to figure out what staffing levels we might need, what things we should serve out of, what we require for the facility, things like that. And then fundamentally, we've been doing this for several years, but it wasn't in the old policy, where we develop compliance plans for larger events. And so this policy notes when a compliance plan would be required or wouldn't be required. So those are the major changes. We also took a bunch out of the policy that was duplicated in other policies. So for example, there's a whole section of basically like rental conditions if you have a special occasion permit. Well, that's already covered in our facility rental policy. So we didn't want to duplicate, and it made the policy probably half the length, which makes it a lot easier for people to read and to access and to understand if we're asking them to do that.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Alex. Are there any questions or comments regarding the policy?
I have.
Councillor Hatfield?
I have 3, if it's okay, Mayor. Alex, in your policy, you had the Goose Nest Market. Why have you got that in there?
So one of the requests that we've had in the past was to have a beer garden, on an event like Canada Day, and it's yet to actually occur. But we wanted to leave that door open if there was any local organizations, the Legion in particular, to be honest, who wanted to have like an outdoor beer garden at a larger venue, that we would make sure that they had the opportunity to do that.
Okay. Now, I was surprised to see that like events like curling, you don't have to put the beer you could leave it in the bottle, but a bigger event, you don't leave it in the bottle. I thought the liquor license said that you had to take it out. No? Okay. The third-party events, does that mean we still run them, or I didn't understand that.
So essentially, a third-party event is where someone is looking to run their own bar. Now, that's not something that we would allow at the community center because the community center is our licensed facility. So we were advised of this a couple years ago by the AGCO that the rules had changed surrounding special occasion permits. And if you allowed something to happen at your facility, it would go against your license. So let's say, two individuals want to have like a stag and doe, and they come and break all of the rules. Well, they don't have a liquor license, so they can just walk away from it. They might get charged for something, but we would also get charged for that. So you can imagine that's not a risk that we would want to take.
Yeah.
In other places, so for example, anything that's not like the community center as a physical address, that wouldn't apply because it's not a licensed facility. So for example, if the Salmon Derby wanted to license the pavilion down at the marina, if anything were to happen there, it's not going to come against the community center's liquor license because it's a different physical address, and that's how they do their charges. So we would open the opportunity to other groups, third parties, if they wanted to have an event at a couple facilities specifically, which would make sense for it, the Goose Nest Market, the Marina Pavilion, places like that, then we would allow them to do that under certain specific conditions, which are outlined in the policy.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Councillor Cannon?
I just have one. I thought we took out the proof of insurance because nonprofit is not going to be able to have a $2 million insurance policy.
So typically,
Out of the policy.
we can take it out of the policy. Typically, when anybody books anything on municipal property, that's the standard that we ask for. And so all of the events, the Ice Fishing Derby as an example, right? They need to show us proof of insurance. All of the local organizations, they need to show us proof of insurance. We're trying not to make the burden too high, but $2 million is the standard now. So it's up to council, right? If council wants to take on that risk of having an uninsured party have an event on municipal property, council can. As a staff member, I'm not going to recommend it. In every case, we're going to be named in a lawsuit. So no matter what, we're already getting named in a lawsuit. But if someone is considered the occupier, if they're hosting an event and they've done something wrong, the lawsuit will eat up their $2 million first before they fall on the municipality's policy. So it's just a layer of extra insurance for us to make sure that, if a lawsuit happens, if something wrong happens, then it's something that doesn't come back on us right away, full on, and there's a little bit of a buffer zone there. There is cost to that for third parties. So if there was an organization who was looking to have an event for one day with alcohol service, most of the time the insurance is going to cost that organization between $400 and $600. It's something that we deal with on a pretty regular basis with making sure these organizations have that. So it is a barrier to organizations doing stuff. You're absolutely right. It's up to council whether they want to impose that or not. As a staff member, I'd recommend yes, but this is council's policy. So if council's feedback is, no, we don't want to have that, that's your call.
Well, I get it for big events. I get it. I mean, even with the Salmon Derby, they have to have the insurance to run it. So I get that. But smaller groups than that, I don't know how they're going to afford, just like if you're just having an event for the night, how you can afford insurance liability for just that event for one night.
So I'll check how I wrote it because my intention in the policy was to write that for people who get special occasion permits for a type of larger event like that. So for example, if you're booking at the community center one quick night as a fundraiser, like the recent LDHC gala, right? We don't make them provide a proof of insurance. If you're a regular user at the community center, you book every week an event, you have to, right? One-off events like that are easily covered through our insurance policy. So I'll check and make sure that I wrote that correctly in the policy. And if I'll make it more clear, let's say that, in the next draft.
Okay, thanks.
Alex, I have a question about AGCO. Are you able to expand, just for my personal clarification, on the relationship between the alcohol and gaming component and how it affects our license?
I don't know why they're put together, I'll be honest. However, they are, through whatever reason the province had. We tend to be very careful around lottery licensing because anything that has to do with lotteries affects our liquor license. Why exactly that is, that would be a provincial question. But you can see I have parts in the policy here that say like you must be following the AGCO rules as set out under the Act. Because, and we've dealt with this several times in the past, unfortunately, if someone comes and does something at our facility that infringes on the Lottery Licensing Act, it's no different than someone has a special occasion permit at our facility and they do something that infringes against the Alcohol Act. Both of those things go against our lottery license, and there's charges to the municipality, our liquor license, and there's charges to the municipality. So if we were to, and we got into this, if you'll allow me a little bit of an anecdote. We got into this with the ice fishing derby a couple years ago. They did something extremely innocent. There was an exchange student. They had the exchange student pick the draw. Well, that student was a minor, and now a minor is involved in the lottery, and that's a big no-no, right? Totally innocent. However, the liquor inspector was right there, pulled me aside and said, hey, I'm not going to charge you for that because that was very innocent, but I could absolutely charge you for that because you allowed it to happen in a facility that you have care and control over. So things like, when minor hockey does a raffle, right? We have to make sure that they have that identified in their lottery license. And luckily it's very easy for us because lottery licenses are given out by the municipality. So I can check with Heather really quickly to make sure that people in the facility are doing what they're supposed to do. But if we're not doing that, then it goes against our liquor license. And you can imagine that could be a huge loss for our community, right? If the municipality wasn't able to hold a liquor license, we wouldn't be able to operate a variety of the events that we currently operate and provide that service to the community, not to mention the revenue loss. So as to why that relationship exists, I couldn't quite tell you, but it's definitely there in law. We've gotten our wrist slapped before about it. We've never been charged yet, but we've certainly been giving warnings about third-party events that happen in our facility and how that could affect our liquor license.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'll ask a question that I'm not sure if you know the answer to, but what type of revenue would we potentially be losing if we would lose our liquor license?
Yeah, so the revenue component of the bar on an average year is to the tune of $80,000, sometimes higher, sometimes lower. So it's pretty significant revenue. In terms of profit, I would say closer to 30 to 40, because of course there are some expenses involved in that revenue, purchases of the beer, things like that. But that revenue goes a long way towards operating the facility. The revenue from the ice as a comparator is about $100,000 this year. So it's almost like if we lost all of our ice rentals in 1 year. It's a lot.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other questions? Okay. So, Alex, I'll just summarize. You're looking for input on the draft policy. I'm not sure if we do have this in a Word format, but I would love to have it in that because there is a few little tweaks and things that I'd like to get my hands on, but
We can do that.
that would be amazing. And with that said, we will move on to item number 8, monthly reports. As our usual practice, I will just open the floor to council to ask any questions regarding the information presented in items 8.1 to 8.4. And Councillor Hatfield has none. Councillor Cannon, do you have any questions of staff?
I have a question for Kevin. Did you get your furniture yet? Why are you both smiling?
Yes, the furniture has arrived and will be put in between now and the new year.
Perfect. And Alex, did we get the banners yet?
Sorry, we did. They're actually sitting downstairs right now. They're slated to go up either Wednesday or Thursday.
Perfect.
Councillor Hoffman, any questions for Staff? With no other questions, we will move on to item number 9, new business. 9.1, request for extension of operating season at the Tourist Information Center. This is a letter to Mayor and Council from the EDACT committee. I can certainly speak to it, but I will ask Maury if she'd like to speak to this in advance.
Thank you, Mayor. And as you shared with Council, this does come from the chair of our EDTAC committee. The EDTAC committee mandate is to provide advice to Council and to exchange ideas and knowledge and share recommendations about policy. And this particular letter is asking Council fundamentally to consider looking at a way in the 2025 budget to see if it's possible to extend the operational hours, which may include extending the season, opening up earlier, maybe opening up later. So Mayor, without saying much more, the recommendation is for Council to consider. And I would recommend to you, Mayor, that you and Council send this back to staff for a report on the TIC in consideration along with the 2025 budget. As Council's aware, we have some financial challenges to face. We're not quite done the budget, but we can come back to Council at the January 14th meeting pending our operating budget to report back.
Thank you very much, Maury. Are there any questions or comments regarding this request? Councillor Cannon?
I agree with Maury. I think we should wait until we get the operating budget and a report, and then talk about this again in the future.
Councillor Hoffman?
I'm sorry, but I have to agree with Kathy too, because I'd love to see the place open sooner and later, but we got a lot of money that's going out the door, so we'll see.
Councillor Rapato?
I'd like to see a follow-up. I'd like to see it open longer, like everybody would, but again, it's financial we have to see first.
So I'll round off, unless Councillor Hatfield has anything to add. I'll round off this this request from the EDACT committee. I sit on the EDACT committee, and this was a conversation that the committee is very focused on tourism, and we did. I cautioned the committee and let them know that a financial analysis would be the best way to determine if there was the resources to extend the tourism season. So they did expect that we would refer this matter to staff to prepare an analysis, and that was one of the first recommendations to see if it was even feasible. So I think that they would be very pleased that was the action of council, and really to determine if there's funding available from external sources. If there is funding from either the provincial or federal government to extend this, that would be great. Although we're cautiously optimistic of that fact, we have heard from Alex time and time again that the province is limiting funding for this purpose, but there's no harm in always keeping our eyes on that. And then, of course, another recommendation is to explore creative options for staffing at the TIC. And certainly, one idea that has been floated around the table at the EDAC table is to develop programs, volunteer staffing programs utilizing seniors. And I understand we have a great seniors programming person on our staff, and there's lots of innovative things that we can do now, and programs have worked other places. So I just leave that with council to think about and ruminate. I understand that Councillor Hoffman has been a great help, a great staff person out at the TIC while he's been there directing people. So that's really where this idea came from. So kudos to Councillor Hoffman for being such an advocate out at the Tourist Information Center. So I am aligned with all of the other councillors to refer this issue back to staff with hopes to bring something back to the EDAC group in the new year. And with that matter, with nothing else, we will move to item 9.2, Wawa Marina Advisory Committee, purchase of long stick excavator. Maury, the floor is yours, I presume.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. In front of Council, on behalf of the Marina Committee, a letter from Perry Coe, who is the chair, is a request to Council to consider purchasing a used, what is it, Alex? It's an excavator. I see long stick excavator, excuse me, and consider a purchase of that excavator as part of the 2025 capital budget. They detail out some cost comparisons. Basically, the committee believes that this piece of equipment would channel and keep the Marina Channel open, and it could be used to maybe supplement some of the municipal staff use. Staff has looked at this. No, we don't have a final report, because I would suggest to council again, you might want to refer this back for a staff report and analysis. But I would just like to remind council that we did present our capital budget to council. I believe that was last Wednesday. We faced some challenges funding the capital we already have and funding the infrastructure that needs to be maintained. So we don't believe at this time that this would be a wise use of council and taxpayer funding, albeit if council would send this back to staff for a report back, it may be something after review by the director that might be included in a longer term capital plan, but for 2025, we are not recommending the purchase. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maury. Are there any questions or comments based on the recommendation made by Maury? Councillor Arpato?
Like you said, it should go back to staff and find out we can use it more than just at the marina. If we could use it more than one time a year, because I don't know how long they'd use it for to dredge with, maybe a week. That's a lot of money tied up with a piece of equipment for 1 week of work. But if it could help us somewhere else, yes, I'd like to see a farther report and find out if it's feasible or not.
Councillor Cannon?
I agree with Joe. I'd like a report because we've already done the capital budget and it's not in the cards for the near future, but do you know if they have gone for outside funding, if they have gone for grants?
It's my understanding that the committee has not looked at grants or looked for other funding sources, albeit it is very, very difficult. There are no government grants that I'm aware of that buys pieces of infrastructure, what they refer to as rolling stock. And Alex may have to add more, but I do understand this piece of equipment is 1999. It's a very old piece of equipment. And we'd have to look at the replacement value, but funding, unless it was a donation of sorts, would be very, very difficult to find.
The only thing I'll add, if it's okay, is that the committee has asked me to draft a letter to Brookfield to ask for funding, because like Maury says, we typically don't see funding for rolling stock or equipment or things like that. So any type of funding would have to come from a source of funding that we haven't either identified yet, or from private funding like something like Brookfield would be. So not to say that it hasn't been deeply delved into, but on the surface with our experience, that's the case.
Okay, thanks.
Are there any other questions or comments from council? Seeing none, I believe we will refer the matter to staff to bring back to council in the new year, a recommendation on this matter. And we'll proceed from there. Item 9.3, 2025 council meeting schedule. Maureen, did you want to speak to this item?
Thank you, Mayor. At the beginning of every year, council sets out its schedule for regular meetings. To give an opportunity for council to make sure they're aware when those meetings are happening, but also to share with the community at large. For the month of January, we are recommending, because the first Tuesday follows very quickly after the town hall reopens on January 2nd. So there would be one regular meeting in January on January 14th. There will be some special meetings. Council's already indicated it will meet on Wednesday, January 8th to hear the operating budget presentation. But there would only be one regular meeting. And the rest of the schedule includes the first and third Tuesday of every month, except the months of July and August, when we take a little bit of a break by only asking out council to meet once per month, and then for the month of December once. So if council's in agreement, we have a resolution following on the regular to adopt this as council's schedule for 2025.
Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Hatfield?
What was that date in January for the operation budget?
On January 8th, it's Wednesday, January 8th at 6:30 p.m.
Hearing no other questions, we'll move on to item 9.4, 2025 Phenom Conference. Maureen, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I had emailed the invitation from Phenom regarding attendance at its annual conference in 2025. It's in May in North Bay. Tonight we have a resolution to approve the travel of two council members who indicated they would like to attend as per policy. Council sets out that the mayor and two members of council can attend the conference. So there is room for another councillor, or we move forward with tonight's resolution approving, subject to council's consideration, the mayor and Councillor Pato to attend. And certainly there's time if a member of council wants to review and come forward in January, February. But our experience is by the end of February, the conference sells out. So the sooner the better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maureen. Is there any questions, comments, any interest in somebody else joining Councillor Pato and I? Councillor Hoffman is interested. So if there's no objection to adding Councillor Hoffman to the upcoming resolution, not seeing any other opposition, Councillor Hoffman, you're welcome to join. Sounds like a great trip. And if there's no other conversation, we will move on to item 9.5, 2024-2025 schedule of fees. Manuela, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I just wanted to take a few minutes to review my report and welcome any questions that council may have this evening. So I reviewed the 2024 schedule of fees, and in making decisions on how to raise fees, I absolutely got input from all of the directors and from our CAO. We also considered the needs of the municipality, the levels of service to be provided, the best practices from our peers, legislative requirements, and the recommendations of some of our master plans, like the master water and wastewater plan, the 10-year financial plan, the 10-year water plan, just to name a few of them. The other things that we considered, but the rates that I didn't adjust a lot were the business licenses, the waste collection, and the cemetery, because those three areas, we're reviewing the bylaws in 2025 and rewriting them, and we will most likely put in a request at that time. the bylaw, particularly for the cemetery, has a process where we have to deal with external agencies in order to amend that bylaw, so it'll be time consuming. Some of the admin functions have moved to the library, so we've done that in support of the library to help them to increase some of their revenues and to free up our staff at the front. The committee room is now an office, so I've removed it from the schedule of fees for the time being. And the MMCC, we made some adjustments to skating and curling and those regular fees, but the recommendation is to do in 2025, as per council's strategic plan, a review of the operations there and of the rates to ensure that the facility is sustainable far into the future. So our recommendation is to accept the scheduled fees as presented. Some of the other options are either to increase the fees more to raise more revenues through user fees and lessen the impact on the levy, or to put the full impact on the levy is also an option, not one I would recommend though. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions? Councillor Cannon?
I just have, I'm looking at first the Wawa Transit. And you say for an adult senior in town is $50, but for an adult senior in the Mission, it's more than double. For like a monthly pass, I'm saying.
What drives that is the distance that the bus has to go or the van has to go. So
That's $110, like, and then for over 10 kilometers, it's $170. I don't know too many seniors who can afford that kind of money to take the bus.
we can definitely review that and bring it back to council.
I don't know if the rest of council agrees. It seems excessive from $50 to $110 for under 10 kilometers for seniors. That's over double. It looked a little, I don't know, more than a lot of seniors I think would like to pay. And
So there are some passes available through the Seniors Goose Club as well. I can speak to you about that
later.
afterwards.
Okay, and then the airport charges, they only went up like cents.
Sorry, Dan is not here this evening, and those were his recommendations.
Okay, well, I'll wait.
Because typically they're cents per kilogram or per 1,000 kilograms.
I get that.
So usually, like when a plane lands, the difference of a couple cents is like, $50 or $60 per plane as it lands.
And it's like the fees are in, like all the fees have gone up at the airport. But so has the fuel, and our fuel is down this year. So is there any way of?
Our fuel sales are down, but so are our purchases. So there's still a surplus there from fuel sales, but not as big of a surplus as there has been in the past. And the fuel prices change constantly, and we average out that price over the last, like we always do the last 4 fills and average the price. So I believe we're still higher than most places for fuel. We're comparable or higher.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Councillor Hoffman?
Like you have a truck, pickup truck, 8-foot box, half load, and then a full load. But now, so would something like a Colorado or a Canyon be classed as a half box?
I believe a truck would be a truck. So that bylaw is under review. That's one of the 3 bylaws that I mentioned that's under review, and those rates will change when the bylaw is brought to council later in 2025.
Just because I can see if I went to the dump with my little truck, he'd probably call me a half load. But somebody might say, well, doesn't say that here. It says, 8-foot box and a half load or whatever, but I'm just wondering because the trucks now, they're only a 5-foot box or a 4-foot box. So
That's a good thought, and I think we could address that in the bylaw, and perhaps what we would look at is the length of the box rather than just saying half-ton or three-quarter ton, and then that could translate to trailers as well, because there's all kinds of different sizes and types of trailers.
I want to make more paperwork, but just kind of maybe a clarification if somebody says, well, I'm driving a little truck, I should be paying less.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Manuela, do you have an idea of how much revenue this, the increase in schedule of fees will generate over in 2025?
I don't have it here tonight, but it is part of the operating budget already.
Okay, perfect. So tonight you are looking for approval to publish this 2025 schedule of fees, and you will be going to the public for a public review period, correct?
Yes, I'm asking for council and public review period until January.
Okay, so if anybody does want to go home and review this and wants to meet with you about specific line items, they can certainly reach out and make an appointment to do that.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Okay, so I encourage council to do that. And if there is no other discussion, we will move on to item 9.6, Superior East OPP Detachment Board 2025 Annual Budget. And Maury, I believe this is your item.
Thank you, Mayor. And as council is aware, the municipality of Wawa, particularly myself and Sue Lord, have been helping to make sure that we met the regulatory requirements and formed a regional OPP detachment board. We switched from our local Wawa Police Board back in April, May, to a detachment board that includes the communities of Chapleau, Wawa, White River, Hornpain, and Duberville. The board started meeting in September, and one of the regulatory requirements is that they prepare estimates or a budget for the upcoming year and share that with each partner municipality. So the correspondence tonight is from the chair, Paul Bernier from Chapleau, to council, requesting that council look at the budget set out, which came to $35,000 for the year. That includes about $3,500 for board insurance, because this board is not a board of council or a municipality. It is a separate board, so it requires separate insurance and all those things, including new policies and new banking and new accounting to go with it. So the startup year is maybe might appear as a little bit high, but it is for 7 communities, and the board determined that that share should be distributed equally amongst all partners. So every community received this letter, and tonight for council is a copy of the budget breakdown with the request formally from the board that council set aside $7,500 in the 2025 operating budget. For council's information, for Wawa, we would be charged the $7,500 as an equal distribution, but we would charge back $2,500 to cover the cost of staff continuing to support the board. Boards are responsible to fund their secretary treasurer time, their bookkeeper time, administrative time. So for the first year, so we can still as a municipality support this board, we would charge them back $2,500, so the net cost to the municipality would be $5,000. And in 2025, staff will continue to monitor the amount of time and effort it takes to assist this board with the view of making a recommendation how this board moves forward in 2026 before the end of the year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maury. Questions, comments from council? Seeing no questions or comments, we will move forward with as your recommendation. and include the $5,000 in the 2025 operating budget. And thank you very much for your hard work and taking the lead on this important initiative. I know other communities are struggling with how they move forward with this OPP detachment board. Item 9.7, Roma delegation, Power Dam grant indexing and ADSAB apportionment. Maury, did you want to take the lead on this?
Thank you, Mayor. As the mayor requested, I added this item to the agenda to keep council informed. As council is aware, Mayor Pilon and Councillor Pato, myself, will be attending the ROMA, the Rural Ontario Municipal Association Conference in January in Toronto, and we have opportunity to request delegations with various ministers. And we have done so, and attached in your package is the delegation request we made to the minister responsible for the District Services Board legislation. The mayor wanted to ensure that we took the opportunity to bring this issue up to the minister, an issue that's very important to this council, and also included your strategic plan, and council certainly in the past has made efforts to address the issue of fairness and equity in the way that the Algoma District Services Board apportions its costs to this municipality, which is not changed. The formula hasn't changed since 2001, which sees today, in my opinion, in opinion of a professional expert who reviewed this matter for council, that it is a very unfair system with Wawa taxpayers paying way more than other taxpayers in the Algoma district, excluding Sault Ste. Marie, towards ADSAP costs. So a copy of that delegation request is included for council information, with the mayor taking the lead and Councillor Pato's support. We wait to hear if the minister will accept the delegation, and we'll make a presentation in January if granted. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maury. I'll also just, for council's information, while we'll be participating in a handful of other delegations, we have been asked to support delegations, a regional delegation, one led by Duberville, for physician recruitment and the loss of the mobile cancer screening van. That will be a regional, it's led by Duberville, but the communities of Chapleau, Hornpain, White River, and I believe Manitowoc will be participating in that, all of the communities under the North Superior Regional Mayors Group. We will also be participating in a delegation, or plan to, let me rephrase, we plan to, should the delegations be accepted, be approved, a delegation submitted by the Northern Ontario Women's Association, formerly known as the NOW Caucus, regarding a change request or amendment of the Northern Ontario boundaries. And the third delegation that we plan to support, we've been asked to support the Madawaska, the municipality of Madawaska, in their delegation request, which is similar. It's related to the indexing of their Power Dam grant. So they have a similar issue to ours, and we have supported and provided a letter of support that has been included in their delegation request. So we've got a handful of delegations that we hope to be able to attend, and Councillor Pato will be very busy with us as we hope to at least get approvals for those delegations. Any questions, comments? Councillor Hatfield?
I just have a comment on the ADSAB presentation. I know how hard you've been working, and I know how hard our CEO and treasurer's been working. I'm really anxious for an answer on that, and good luck.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hatfield. Councillor Cannon?
I just wanted to say good luck too. And yes, you've been working very hard on this for a couple of years, so I thank you for that and good luck.
So good luck. And so now we're looking for not more money, but we're looking for what would they give us to be indexed so we get more that way.
Well, we have a two-pronged approach that we're trying to do. We are supporting the city of Madawaska, who's looking to have their Power Dam grant indexed, which would also benefit us if they were approved, if that approach was approved. But we're also looking to have, with ADSAB, we're looking to have that board review the apportionment model. So
That's the tough one.
it's a tough one. It is a tough one, but we're looking at all angles because it's a very important problem. It's a critical issue to the municipality. Maureen, did you have anything to add? Perfect. So if there's no other questions or comments, there are no items under item number 10, 11, or 12. The next meeting date is Tuesday, January 14th, 2025. Item number 14, adjournment, close of meeting. We will close at 7:16 p.m. May I please have somebody make a motion to adjourn? Councillor Cannon, seconded by Councillor Hoffman. All in favor? Carried. And we'll just take a minute to move to our regular council meeting agenda. We'll call the meeting to order and note the members present at 7:17 p.m. Item number 2, disclosure of pecuniary interest. Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to item number 3, approval of the agenda.
Moved by Councillor Cannon, seconded by Councillor Hoffman, resolved that the agenda for the regular meeting of council scheduled for Tuesday, December 10th, 2024 be approved as presented.
All in favor? Carried. There are no delegations or presentations, so we'll move on to announcements and giving of notice. There are a number of announcements listed on the agenda, so I'll encourage everybody to take a look at those. Are there any announcements by councillors? Councillor Rapato?
Once again, the cemetery committee is offering ice candles for people. The date that is going to be presented is the 29th of December. And we look for volunteers to help place them or move them or do anything. So anybody wants to come out and tromp around the snow with us, you're welcome to come. There'll be hot chocolate and a fire. Thank you.
You can count me in, Councillor Rapato. I have a number of announcements. Does anybody else want to go first before I... So I wanted to start with the Santa Claus Parade is going to be this coming Friday at 6 p.m. The parade will start at the, north end of Broadway at 6 p.m. Afterwards, everybody's invited to join the mayor and councilors for hot chocolate at the Mishpahton Memorial Community Center. It'll be outside this year, and there will also be free public skating. That's being sponsored by Canadian Tire, so really exciting, lots of fun things happening this Friday. There will also be CTV. It has been featuring a mayor's feature with Ian Campbell on the evening news at 6 p.m. So I'm really delighted to announce that I am going to be participating, and will be featured on December 18th. So please tune in to that. And please, Councillor Hatfield doesn't get that, so please invite her over to your home to see December 18th. also really excited to announce the winners of the Civic Achievement Award. This award has been brought back after many, many years by Councillor Cannon and Councillor Hatfield. This year, we've announced two really deserving groups, the Wawa Seniors Club and Dr. Cotterill and Dr. O'Brien are this year's recipients. There will be an event to acknowledge the recipients of the Civic Achievement Award January 10th at 2 p.m. at the municipality downstairs in the former OPP detachment. We'll do coffee and cake and an award ceremony, so please feel free to come out and help us acknowledge these very deserving award recipients. And I believe that's all for me. So we will move on to item number 6, adoption of minutes. 6.1, adoption of minutes.
Moved by Councillor Hoffman, seconded by Councillor Cannon. Resolved that the following minutes of the meetings of council be adopted as presented. Minutes of a regular meeting of council held on Tuesday, November 19th, 2024, as contained on pages 1 to 8 inclusive of the minute book, and minutes of a special meeting of council held on Wednesday, November 27th, 2024, as contained on pages 1 to 3 inclusive of the minute book.
All in favor? Carried. Item number 7, correspondence. There are a number of issues listed under correspondence, or items rather. Maureen, is there anything that you'd like us to pay particular attention to?
Yes, I'd like to just highlight a couple. Under 7.4, the Minister of the Solicitor General has advised council that and municipalities in Ontario that it will provide a grant to offset the increases in OPP costing to the municipality in 2025. As council heard during our capital budget presentation, we were looking at a 27% increase, about 213,000 more to support our local OPP costs, but a grant is being provided. I'm sorry, Mayor, but I was looking for the correspondence. I don't have that memorized, of about 100 and some thousand back. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Hoppin. We will be getting a grant for $146,000 to offset those increases, bringing the increase in the OPP budget down substantially, impacting the 2025 budget. As we understand today from the correspondence, it is a one-time grant, and the Solicitor General hasn't indicated if that grant will be forthcoming in future years, but we will await positive news as the government reviews how these increases in OPP costing will be dealt with in the future. So that's good news. For council interest, the Minister of Municipal Affairs under item 7.3 advised the municipality that as part of its Build Housing Faster legislation, it is dictating that all municipalities in Ontario amend its planning documents to ensure that as of right, and as of right basically means it is a guaranteed right of a property owner to build up to 3 residential units on their property. So in our zoning bylaw, for example, there are areas zoned R1 that state 1 single detached dwelling can be built, but the government has passed legislation overriding all municipal zoning and official plans for municipalities, saying that owners are allowed to build up to 3 units on every lot without coming back to council for permission to go. They don't have to go through a zoning bylaw amendment process, letting the people in the area know. It is now legislation as of right, and this is impacting the entire province, and basically is part of the provincial government's series of regulations and changes to ensure that more homes are built faster is one way of solving the housing crisis. The last item just to note for tonight, 7.8, it's the Algoma Health Unit correspondence that sets out that it is increasing the municipal levies of all its partner municipalities by 9% to cover an increase in costs it experienced in 2024 and previously, and it was with regret that they will be increasing their levy by 9% in 2025. The treasurer will include that in the operating budget. Our budget is fairly small, so we pay about $100,000 to the Algoma Health Unit, so the increase is about $10,000. So 9% certainly is above COLA, and another example of how a lot of organizations are struggling to keep their costs down, but in the end, it's taxpayers that have to pay that 9%, and then council has to deal with how it has to absorb these costs and hopefully in the end come out to the taxpayer with justifications if the tax levies to increase in 2025. So those are the correspondence I'd like to highlight tonight. Thank you.
Maury, can I just get you to highlight 7.7?
Thank you, Mayor, and please to share with council if you're not already aware, because certainly there are many, many supporters and pieces of public media out there, but this is to advise council that Ignis was selected for the future Canadian repository for nuclear waste. This is exciting news and really, really big news for the North, because studies have shown that the economic impact will not only occur in Ignis, but will occur throughout the North. Council had a recent presentation from the Nuclear Waste Management Organization regarding transportation. So I'm sure council will keep this in mind as public engagement opportunities come forward in the future for council to have a say on the safe transportation of the nuclear waste and maybe supporting the growth of the economy in the North by supporting this and Ignis. I don't believe, Mayor, that I think they're saying about 10 years out till anything happens, but thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hatfield, do you have a question?
The 9% for Algoma Health, is that not Marathon, White River, Dubreuilville, they all pay 9% too? Okay, thanks.
Are there any other questions on the information received? With no other questions, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Item number 8, 8.1, approval of the consent agenda.
Moved by Councillor Cannon, seconded by Councillor Hoffman. Resolved that the items listed under the consent agenda, 8.2 to 8.6, be approved as recommended.
May I ask a question with regards to 8.6, approve council travel to? Are we making an amendment to add Councillor Hoffman?
No, Mayor, I had already added his name. We had the two names and then a blank space, so I just added it in. So the resolution will approve the travel of Mayor Melanie Pilo, Councillor Joseph Apato, and Councillor Jim Hoffman.
Excellent. Thank you very much for the clarification. All in favor? Carried. Item 9, staff reports and memos. 9.1, receive staff reports / memos.
Moved by Councillor Hoffman, seconded by Councillor Cannon. Resolved that Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Wildwood does hereby receive the following staff reports and memos. A, AP memo draft M002 municipal alcohol policy. B, Protective Services Department Kevin, 2024-13, November 24 monthly report. C, Finance Department, MB, November 24 monthly report. D, Economic Development Department, EDO 24-02 quarterly report. E, Community Services and Tourism Department, AP 24-18, November 24 monthly report. And F, MB 2024-25, 2025 schedule of fees.
All in favor? Carried. There is no business arising out of previous meeting, so we will move on to item number 11, new business. 11.1, adopt the 2025 to 2030 Wawa Age Friendly Plan.
Moved by Councillor Cannon, seconded by Councillor Hoffman. Resolved that Council of the Corporation of the Municipality Wawa does hereby adopt the 2025-2030 Wawa Age Friendly Plan.
All in favor? Carried. 11.2, approve goose print requisitions.
Moved by Councillor Hoffman, seconded by Councillor Cannon. Resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality Wawa does hereby approve the following requisitions for a framed Wawa goose print in accordance with policy number PR001, presented to Dr. Cotterill and Dr. Oberai, Mr. Mike Moore, Wawa Seniors Goose Center.
All in favor? Carried. 11.3, approve 2025 council meeting schedule.
Moved by Councillor Hatfield, seconded by Councillor Paddle. Resolved the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Wawa does hereby set the dates for its regular council and committee of the whole meetings for the year 2025 as attached in accordance with section 5.1 of the procedural bylaw number 352322.
All in favor? Carried. 11.4,
Moved by Councillor Opato, seconded by Councillor Hatfield. Whereas the property described as 53 Government Road, Wawa, PIN 31169-0626, mining claim SSM 8619, McMurray Part 2, reserving the SRO on and over the traveled road, roll number 5776-3321-0000, was offered for tax sale in accordance with the prescribed rules under Part X1 of the Municipal Act 2001, and whereas the noted tax sale was unsuccessful, and whereas after an unsuccessful tax sale, under Part X1 of the Municipal Act, the treasurer of a local municipality may remove the unpaid taxes from the roll on the approval of council per Section 354(2), subject to Section 354(3) of the Municipal Act. And whereas it is the recommendation of the treasurer of the municipality Wawa that the tax arrears of the above noted property be removed from the roll. Therefore, be it resolved that Council of the Corporation of the Municipality Wawa does hereby approve the write-off of all taxes owing, being $28,218.04 for the property described as 53 Government Road, roll number 5776-003-32100, and register a notice of vesting in the name of the Corporation of the Municipality Wawa in accordance with the Municipal Act Section 379. And further, that council declare the property as described herein as surplus in accordance with policy AD 002, sale of land.
all in favor? Carried. 11.5, Roger Segway, Mayor, Town of Hearst, proposed expansion of motor coach services in Northwestern Ontario.
Moved by Councillor Hatfield, seconded by Councillor Pato. Whereas the Town of Hearst strongly supports Ontario Northland Transportation Commission's proposed expansion of motor coach services in Northwestern Ontario, including connections to the Winnipeg Airport and west of Hearst through Nipigon and surrounding communities. And whereas many residents in Northern Ontario are dependent on bus service to attend medical appointments and receive essential healthcare services, and by enhancing and expanding bus routes in Northern Ontario would ensure that all residents have timely and reliable access to necessary medical and support services that are only available in large urban centers. And whereas Northern Ontario transportation is essential for the success of the province, enhancing and transportation availability by introducing new bus routes will significantly improve connectivity, support economic growth, and ensure that all communities in the north are accessible to everyone. Now therefore be it resolved that Council of the Municipality Wawa supports the Town of Hearst and Ontario Northland's proposal to expand motor coach services in Northwestern Ontario and urges the Ontario Northland Transportation Commission and the province of government to prioritize this expansion of bus service throughout Northern Ontario. And further, that a copy of this resolution be shared with Ontario Northland, the Spear East Mayor's Group, the Honorable Prabmeet Singh Sarkaria, Minister of Transportation, Banam, and Noma.
All in favor? Carried. There are no items listed under item number 12, notice of motion. Item number 13, bylaws. 13.1, first, second, and third reading.
Moved by Councillor Pato, seconded by Councillor Hatfield. Resolved that the following bylaws be introduced and read a first, second, and third time and finally passed, and that the mayor and clerk do sign and seal the same, any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding. Bylaw number 3755-24, to confirm the proceedings of council at its meetings held on the 10th day of December 2024. Bylaw number 3756-24, to authorize the corporation of the municipality of Wawa to enter into an agreement with TransCanada Chrysler respecting a land use permit for a sign on municipal property. And bylaw number 3757-24, to authorize the purchase and sale of land described as Part 1 of Plan IR 14209, known municipally as 160 Mills Drive, to Donald L. Davidson Fuels.
All in favor? Carried. There are no items under item 14, 15, or 16. Item number 17, next meeting date. 17.1, Tuesday, January 14th, 2025. Item number 18, adjournment. 18.1, close of meeting.
Moved by Councillor Hatfield, second by Councillor Pato. Resolved that the meeting close at 7:36 p.m.
Thank you very much. And on behalf of council, we wanted to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Please have a safe holiday season, and we'll see everybody back here in 2025. Have a great night.